All right, here's the third of the absolute beginner Blender blockout tutorials. In the first one, I showed you how to take this default cube and squash it down using the transform tools, the move, the rotate, and the scale tools to make kind of a Lego setup for a blockout for your scene, with the goal of just grabbing a screen capture or a quick rendering and then taking that into a paint program for a paint over. In the second video, I showed you a little bit more advanced things, how to take the default cube and add a bevel modifier to make some quick stairs, how to use the array modifier. There's a lot more to learn as well. So this one's a little bit more advanced. If you are absolutely brand new, I really recommend watching those first two videos so that you are up to speed. What I'm going to show you in this one is a couple of the default Blender add-ons that you can just turn on without even getting out of your chair. They're free, they're here, you just need to turn them on, show you what they do. And then I'll show you a couple of other ones that are free and extremely useful, but that you do need to go and download separately. I'm going to show you, to start off right here, another method that isn't the kind of the Lego, the block building, taking the default cube. In fact, I'm going to delete the default cube. So this method that I'm going to show you uses planes as the tool that we're extruding and expanding from. This is particularly good if you've already drawn some kind of map. I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to say Shift A, and I'm going to add an image to the scene. So Shift A, or go up to the Add menu. And in this case, I'm going to add a reference image. So we'll talk about images as planes here in a little bit, but you may not even see that right now because that's one of those add-ons that needs to be turned on. But just find that image and reference. And then it's just going to take you to the desktop, find the map that you're working on, and there it is. Now, one thing that's happened here is that I've put the map in while I was in a perspective view. That's kind of pain in the butt. I'm just going to delete that. So much easier to hit that 7 key if you have a full-size keyboard. Click on the little blue circle, hold down your tilde grave key and go to top view. If you're in top view, it makes this next step easy and you don't have to worry about aligning the reference image to the floor. So I'm going to do that again, Shift A, image and reference, and then I'll grab that little map that I just drew out with a Sharpie. I think I'm just going to scale this about 5 times, just S5, and we'll just kind of jump into there. I'm just looking at my little figure over here. You may not have a figure, but you can align it so that the grid matches up with the grid in the scene. Also, by the way, if you want to, you can come over here to the scene tab over here. If you want units to not be metric, but you want them to be imperial, feet in inches or centimeters or whatever, you can change a lot of those things over here if it makes it easier. I'm just going to leave it at the default meters. We need to all learn how to use meters one of these days. So what I'm going to do is just add in a plane here. I'm just going to stay in top view. I'm going to say Shift A, and I'm going to add in a mesh and a plane. That's the simplest. That's just a square, basically. It's one polygon, 4 sides. That's all it is. So there it is. I'm going to go ahead and grab it and just sort of yank it back over here to the back of my scene. Actually, that looks pretty good scale-wise. I might just leave it like that. You could scale it up a little bit. Maybe I'll scale it a tiny little bit. I'll just hit S to scale and just push it up a little bit more so it's fitting the grid of my squares there a little bit more. And now with this one plane, this is basically kind of the floor. I'm starting to build the floor of my little model over here. I'm just going to stay in top view for these first couple of steps because it might make it a little easier for you to see what I'm doing. What I need to do now is we're going to start off right away. In fact, actually, let me back this up one grid square so you can kind of see what's happening. I'm going to hit the Tab key to jump into edit mode. And remember, we have the 1, 2, and 3 keys, the exclamation point, the @ and the hashtag there above your QWERTY keys there. 1, 2, and 3 move you through these edges or through these selections, vertex, edge, or face. I'm going to click on that middle one, or even better, get into the habit of hitting the 2 key to select this edge mode here. And I'm going to grab this edge. Remember, I'm in edit mode. I hit the Tab key to get into edit mode. If you don't see edit mode right over here, you're not going to be able to do this. All you're going to be able to do is scale it like we were doing the last time. I'm going to hit the E key to extrude, and then I'm just going to move it off in this direction. And it's actually staying, because we're in top view, it's actually staying on the floor just fine, but it might be easier to just hit that X key. That's just going to snap it in so that it's nice and straight, so you're not getting anything a little crooked. I'm just going to extrude it right up to the edge of those walls there and click again. So you see how that just added another polygon over here. So if I click on the 3 key, I can select that face or I can select that face. But I'm going to go back to the edge mode by hitting the 2 key and click on this. So what I need to do now is create this large room over here. And if I want to keep it attached to my floor, let's just do it the wrong way first. I'm just going to extrude, and I'll just take it all the way over to the edge, hit the X key just to lock it in, something like that. Now if I were to grab this edge and move it to make that room wider, well, you see what happens. I mean, you might want that kind of funnel shape going on right there, but that's not actually what's in my little drawing. So I'm going to undo twice to get back to where I was. And in this case, I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then I'm going to hit enter right away, or return, or left click. So now I have two edges right here. So now let's do that thing again, knowing that I have the edge that makes up the left side of this face right here, and I've got another one. That's the one that I'm going to hit E to extrude, X, just to keep it neat and tidy. And I'm going to bring it over here about to that edge. Now watch me do that exact same thing again. I'm just going to grab that corner and just push it up. And you don't get that kind of angled funnel effect going on here because we left an edge behind here. We made two edges, right? I extruded this out and then I extruded it a second time and dropped it in the same exact place. So now there's a nice sharp little corner. And I can do the same thing. I can grab over here and just use the little arrows that I showed you how to do in that first day to make that nice big square room. And if I want to move it over into a isometric view, you can see, there we go. We've got our little floor plan going, and we can keep on going in the top view now, but what the heck, we'll just do this in a perspective view because we need to be using the lock keys anyway. Now I want to create this little hallway over here and this little hall that goes to the staircase over here. Well, I don't have any edges to break here. That's where we can start cutting up faces by using the loop tool, loop cutting or ring selection. I like to think of them as a ring tool because that helps you with the keyboard shortcut. So what I'm going to do is I want to put a cut right here down the middle of this face over here. There's a lot of different ways to do that. But the simplest for what we need right now is just to put our cursor up over near this edge and then say Control R to add a loop cut or a ring cut, if that helps you think about it. Now what it's done is by default, it puts it right down the middle of that polygon, which is actually works perfectly for where we want that far side of the walls to be. So if I like where it is, I can just click twice, and you'll see why twice here in a second. And I've just dropped that new edge over here. So now I have two different faces. Let's do that again over on this side because we still need to make another cut over here so we can push this guy down the hallway. So I'm going to put my cursor over on this edge. I'm going to do Control R again. And notice that the first click that I do allows me to slide this back and forth along the edge here. If you ever get it stuck and you want to move it, if you click in the wrong spot. In fact, let's just do it wrong right now. We'll do that. I still have it here. I can just move it right now. Moving that edge doesn't actually hurt anything. But once you've applied materials and things to a surface and you get it in the wrong spot, what you actually want to do is use GG twice. If you type GG, then it allows you to kind of slide the edges along without changing the UV space, meaning the textures. If we had thrown some flagstones on here or whatever already, and I moved that, I would have stretched all those flagstones when I moved that edge. But right now it doesn't really matter. Now I can come over here and grab this edge, and I can't move it, right, because that's going to cause that problem again. But what I can do is hit the E key to extrude, and I'm looking in that Y green axis there, so I'm just going to hit the Y key so I can go down to where it's right about there. And the way I go around this corner is just do that again. Extrude to the far wall, Y to just make sure it's nice and straight. So now I've got the grid square that's in the corner, and I'll go this way and notice the X arrow, right? So E to extrude, type in the X key to go off in that direction, and there we go. I have all of that. And you can do the exact same thing over here. Let's talk about this area where I'm just going to jump back into the top view so we can see what's happening here again. What's up with all this like cave system thing going on? We're breaking out of the nice, neat areas. I'm going to show you a really fun way to do kind of these natural shapes here. First of all, we need to come over and keep on cutting up this edge here again. I'm just going to put a cut down over here, and I'm going to put a cut over here and click and then put it right over there so that I have this edge to work with. I'm going to grab this edge, I'm going to hit E to extrude, hit the X key so that I get a nice tight little corner there, and then there we go, I'm good to go. So now what I'm going to do is come over down to this little icon. Actually it probably looks like this by default here, this little icon. That's just the basic extrude tool. We've been just kind of extruding things just with the default extrude, but if you pop this open and you come out down to this very last one, extrude to cursor, it makes this next step really kind of fun and easy to do. So with that mode selected, I'm going to do one more cut. I'm going to add a cut right there. Arrow key and select that edge. Now I can go back to this edge here, and I'm going to hit E to extrude, and then I'm just kind of like, I can come and E, and I can hit the R to rotate though, although that's giving me, I need to extrude a little farther. E to extrude, and then I can hit R to rotate to get it around that corner, and then I can E to extrude a little bit more, and I can just keep on going down over here. I'm going to go this way, and maybe I'll click right there and hit R to rotate. I'll show you how to fix all these things once we're going. And then I'll E to extrude around the corner. Another E. We'll just do this really quick and dirty for now. And then I'll take this edge. Whoops, that's one thing you gotta do. You gotta click out of that mode because it'll just like keep on going with you. So I always forget about that. I'm gonna hit E to extrude again. We'll go down over here and we'll go over here and you can see where you could keep on going with this. But let's fix some of these edges. Remember, we have some other things that we can do. Like we can select, I'm gonna click on the selection tool to make sure I'm not accidentally extruding anything. I can grab this edge, zoom in a little bit here, and I can rotate that a little bit better. Maybe I can rotate this edge a little bit. Maybe rotate will work. Maybe just moving this edge here might help a little bit. And don't forget, we can hit the 1 key, !1, and we can get in here and like fine tune these even more. I can come over, it looks like maybe I need another vertex or two over there. But I can come in and I'm grabbing each one of these, and notice I'm grabbing the little blue square there. Grabbing that little blue square means that I'm only moving it in the on the Z axis there. I'm not moving it up in the air at all. I'm moving it in X and Y, and that's kind of helpful. So again, you can keep on going on with this. Maybe I'll push that one there so it's not quite so stretched. If I wanted to say like, all right, well, I need to add another one over here. There's another tool that we could use. We could just use the regular old ring selection too, but let me show you the K tool, K for knife. If you move in a knife tool, you see it turns into a little knife. And then what I can do is I can just come over here. I'm actually going to break from the quad geometry. I'm going to click on this vertex. I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to click on that vertex. And when you're happy, you have to click enter to tell it that you're done. Now I just gave myself another edge. I just basically kind of took the knife, like, you know, I was using a X-Acto knife or whatever, and I just sort of sliced that edge up. I can do it over here again. I can just say K. I can start on an edge and I could go over to another edge and I can click, and you can keep on going. I can just chop this up all over the place, but I'm going to hit enter to tell it that I'm happy. And now I can grab this point, and you can see you can get some pretty good resolution here if you really wanted to. Anyway, that's what I wanted to show you in terms of this method here. So how do we then turn this into a blockout like we had before? Well, I'm going to go back into that edge mode, and I'm just going to select these edges. Remember, you can use the Control Shift Click selection tool as well, but right now I'm just going to do it manual. I'm just going to go over here and grab all of these edges. It's a little hard to see on this weird green color that's been assigned to my, we'll fix this little problem right here. We got a little problem right there. That's actually a teachable moment. We'll take care of that in a second. So we'll just do that. You know, you keep on going. I'm going to hit E to extrude, and look, instant walls here. And if I type in the Z key there, then I can lock this in to the vertical direction here, and I've got my walls. Let's take a look at what's going on with this one, though. We can come over here to this edge. I'm going to select that edge here. I'm just going to hit delete, and I'm going to delete edges. Now, see what it's done here is because we were a little sloppy chopping these up here. What I need to do is I'm going to delete this edge as well, and I'm going to use another command that's very useful. I'm going to select this edge. I'm going to hold a shift key. I'm going to select this edge, and I'm going to hold the F key down or hit the F key. That's going to fill, and the F key is just going to bridge the gap between those. That can get a little tricky. You know, there's lots of ways where that can go wrong, but for something as simple as what we're doing here, that's perfectly fine. And then if I wanted to like add some doors and windows, I can do that same loop cut tool. I can just come to an edge and click R and like just, you know, slide it up over here, and we'll add another one down over here. And you could add baseboards, you could add trim, you could do whatever you want. So maybe I'll add like a window over on this side. So Control R, Control R. Oh, that's good, but I want it to be like half the size of this wall. I don't want it to be this whole corner here. So I'll come in and add a couple more loop cuts over here. And I'll add one more over there. There we go. Good enough. Okay, so now I'm going to hit the 3 key, #3, to get into the face mode. And I could just extrude this and make it a little niche or a little hallway. Or I could leave it like that, make it a window, and then just turn this piece into glass. Or I could I'm actually going to just delete this face right now because I'm going to show you another modifier. I'm going to delete that face there, and I'll just go right there. Boom. There's the faces. And so now we have this almost like it's a sort of a piece of paper, a model that's kind of cut out from paper. But if I wanted to give this model a little bit of thickness, I can use a very simple modifier. I can come over here to the wrench and I can add the modifier, and under generate we are going to come over here and add the solidify modifier. We're going to come down here and add the solidify modifier, and by default the thickness is very tiny. You can barely see it, but we can kind of crank that number up a little bit so we're getting much sort of thicker walls going on there. We can check the even thickness to get some of those weird angles out of there. And the nice thing about this is that you can turn it off, right? I can hide it from the viewport, or I can even hide it in the rendering if I want it. But if I turn it off, then it just goes back to my little paper thin walls. But it's really easy to turn these very thin surfaces into walls just by adding in this solidify modifier. And then if you want to keep on working with it, right now these are kind of imaginary walls here. The reveal around my window here and the thickness of all these walls is not really there, but I can apply it just like anything. I can't apply in edit mode, but if I applied it, then these walls would suddenly become real and you could come in and chop them up. So that's another fun way to both use a reference guide, and again, it doesn't need to be a little graph paper thing. It could be anything you want to use. You can throw them in vertically and use that to draw some vertical element in your scene. Lots of things for that. So come back in the next part of this here. We're going to do part 4, and I'm going to show you all of those little fun add-ons and modifiers and a couple of other more advanced things that are going to make your projects fun.